Hey everybody, it's Chris Friendly. I've been procrastinating a while about making another video, so I'm going to do a quick one about some lesser known bands, mainly US Oi, 80s, 90s, and I'm going to make a follow up of some of the stuff coming out today, and hopefully soon I'm going to start doing a more more active video every couple weeks, maybe even more. Once a week would be nice, but I'll see. Just highlighting some of the stuff coming out and everything. There's always some cool represses, stuff that even if you could find it, I know I don't have money for a lot of that shit. Everybody would love a copy of Cough Cool, Fun Things, Mental Abuse, Fatal Rage, but that's why, represses, that's what they're there for. So anyway, first of all, I just want to mention, when you talk about Oi, this is just a really cool album if you get a chance to find this. The worldwide tribute to Real Oi. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that's stuff that, it's the more I don't like using popular or like mainstream, because none of this is popular or mainstream. It's definitely subculture type thing. But you know what I'm saying. More well known. The Cockspars, Peter Tetsu Babies. That kind of stuff. Foreskins. Obviously those guys are amazing. And I just wanted to mention that was done by some hardcore guys. I think Roger Murat and Otto. Let me get this guy's name right, because I don't mean to say it like that, but I think he's passed on. So I know Chromag, him and Roger Murat put this together, and in fact, this is the booklet. It's really cool because it gives you like the list, obviously, which is obviously on the back. But it gives the bands a little, not a full story, but they mention what Oi means to them a little bit, and here's just a random page with that Sick of It All and Rikers, and they just mention what Oi itself means to them and why they picked the songs they picked, and obviously that's one of the classics. I just got this original. It's a little beat up, but hey. More, it's a little loved, a little beat in, a little lived in, what I mean? Got it for a decent price, that's what matters to me. And that's what reminded me that I should be doing this. But this is obviously, UK. And, but speaking of that, now we got, Strength Through American Oi. And the two big comps, you have that, Strength Through Oi, and Oi, the album, of course. But in America, you have the Spirit of Oi, American Style, which was on Oi Koi Records, which is only, I'm actually from Trenton, New Jersey. I lived over in Marsville. I lived in a kind of a different area of Marsville, not that it matters, not like the actual Marsville, but my address was Marsville, so it's always cool to see that, and I grew up, Trenton is right across the river from Marsville, so it's cool. They only put out like 3 releases that I'll get to another one later, and then the other one is US Boy, and that featured a lot of the bands in the scene. So some of the first bands in American Oi were the Bruisers were up in New Hampshire. Like I said, I'm not saying, I don't know who, people debate over who was the first. The Bruisers, I think, were a little bit more of that street rock and roll, but definitely that Oi style. Al Barr, who later went on to the Dropkick Murphys, of course, from what I heard, like his parents worked in linguistics or something, and he actually got to live overseas. So he was, when he came back to the U.S., he was, a couple years ahead of everybody, and really turn people on. And I think the Bruisers are, like a lot of bands, a lot of street rock bands, took a big influence from, of course, the Oi and stuff, but also like Johnny Thunders and everything. Like, I mean, you can't really, everybody knows the influence of the Ramones and Johnny Ramone's guitar playing, what led the Blueprint. And of course, Steve Jones was amazing in the Pistols. That never mind the Bullets, whatever one, I love the Pistols. So they're the one that like really opened me up to underground music and everything else. I know some people want to shit on them right now for whatever reasons, but Steve Jones, but like Johnny Thunder has really influenced, I think, a lot of that, a lot of street rock, a lot of oi and stuff. Definitely heard in the Bruisers. The Bruisers, they had that street rock kind of oi influence, and then they even like moved on, like they had a lot of even stuff that almost sounded like country rock influenced, and that's not, I'm not saying that in a bad way. Another group is Anti-Heroes. They were featured on some of these comps. One of the guys actually worked with GMM Records in out of Atlanta, or founded or whatever, but this is actually on Link Records. Another group, Moonstomp. I believe these guys are from Atlanta. I'm almost positive. Tried to check up my notes and my memory, but these guys also appeared on Link Records out of England. One of the other groups that, like I said, was on Oikor Records was a group called the Uprise from Philadelphia and stuff, and they actually had an album that was supposed to be released on Link Records. Hey, anyway, sorry, I had to pause real quick. I didn't want to waste time looking for something. But the Uprise, now this is a record. These guys have a really classic old 7-inch, sitting about 2 feet away, but I don't feel like digging through records. And if I waited forever, oh wait, I think I have it right. Oh, here it is, right here. One by One. Now this was just re-released, so if you want to, I think they're posting it on eBay. 3 different colors. I think you can get a bundle of it. Let me know. I'll find out the information if you're interested. But this was a record that was released or recorded in '88, or probably before. I think it was supposed to be released in '88 on Linked Records out of England. And whatever happened, I think the group broke up or whatever, and then the recording sat somewhere for years. And then eventually they got it out thanks to guys like Pat Society from Violent Society, who I got to give them credit. Back in the days, before punk really exploded, like whatever you want to say, unfortunately Green Day, Rancid, even Nirvana before them kind of brought it back to like street music and stuff. But guys like the Violent Society, Blank 77, the Casualties, even like the Unseen. I wasn't as familiar with them real early on because I was pretty young back then. But Unseen up in Boston, those were guys that were really out there doing it real early in the 90s. So, and I'm not saying they're the only ones, but they're the ones that come to mind. But yeah, it's Uprise, really cool album. These guys were actually really pretty good musicians and stuff, and actually made some really good songs. I mean, obviously, always people talk shit about punk rock and stuff, but I always try to tell people it also makes it more accessible to people, you know what I mean? When I saw Guns N' Roses when I was 11 or 12, I was never going to play like Slash. I was never going to sing like Axl, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I was never going to have $1 million to make some November Rain video, or David Geffen. That was the whole reason punk started. People wanted music from the streets, and making it 3 chords and a little simpler made it more accessible. You didn't have to keep telling yourself, oh, I got to be a better musician before I can make an album. Nah, do something. If it sucks, hey, whatever, man. Maybe it won't suck as bad a year from now. So some other groups here. The Revolt. Can't talk about American Oi without having Strength Through American Oi. The Revolt. These guys are from California. It's on Vulture Rock, which is out of New Mexico, Albuquerque, I believe. It's a good label if you want to check them out. Obviously, a lot of people, if you don't know about Discogs, even if you're not going to buy off of them, they're great to go look stuff up. This album, I think it was a guy that runs a website called American Skinhead or American Oi or something, and I got into a conversation and he asked me if there was anything I was looking for because he was picking up stuff. He picked stuff up through the years and tried to grab extra copies when he could. So I got it a little bit cheaper than I would have got it somewhere else, like on eBay or Discogs. It still was up there around $100, which is really kind of my limit, and I can't even afford to do that often. Now, one of the things that really stopped me from doing this for a while is I really don't want to get into the whole politics of things, whatever. People might have leaned a little right or whatever. Like, I'm not trying to get into that, but I just wanted to mention a couple groups. Like, first of all, the Mad Hatters. Now, these guys from Philly, and along with, there's another group I want to mention at the same time. Doc Martin, and Doc Martin was one of the groups actually from one of those compilations. Back in the day before internet, you would have to go and look and see who people thanked, even look at people's shirts and jackets and stuff, especially when you're younger. And the arresting officers, and I'm mentioning all these guys because these albums were re-released on a certain label that I'm not going to get into. Now, like I said, I don't know what anybody's politics are. There are some groups that I'm definitely intentionally staying away from, and to be honest, those kind of groups, I don't think really, the majority of them, I don't think made a significant impact on you know, the real scene or whatever. But the Arresting Officers out of Philadelphia are a band that I've heard a lot of, just being from this area, and also when a lot of people talk about some of the earlier groups. Another real early group was the Press out of New York. I'm not sure. I think they only had one single or something, but this was a re-release done years later, and it's on Insurgents Records. I don't know if it's still available. I think Insurgents is out of Toronto or Canada somewhere, but they re-released this. It's another re-release is Doug and the Slugs. These guys were around pretty early out of California. I believe Doug just passed away the last couple of years, but it was one of those really one of the earlier groups in LA. And like I said, this is a re-release. Step One Music, Long Shot and stuff came together, re-released this and a lot of their other stuff. Now Iron Cross, they were on Discord and stuff real early on. Of course, they did Crucified, which was the song Agnostic Front, is a staple of their live sets, and a lot of other groups. They were on Discord, which was Ian MacKaye, one of the first groups that when punk rock, you know, became more into the hardcore in the 80s, when we realized, or those guys realized that, you know, major labels didn't want nothing to do with them, and we didn't want nothing to do, you know, they didn't want nothing to do with us, we didn't want nothing to do with them, which gave people more freedom and stuff. And you really need to look into the whole Discord story and the way those guys just put albums together themselves. Well, Iron Cross were guys from Virginia, one of the first like skinhead hardcore groups and stuff. This is a compilation of it's got the Skinhead Glory 7-inch and a demo on there. You got Stars and Stripes. These guys are from like Boston. It's a group from, I don't want to say a side group, but a group featuring Jack Kelly. There was a lot of like skinhead punk kind of beef. I know these guys really didn't get along with, or like Slapshot and stuff. Really didn't like Waddy and the Exploited and blah blah blah. And there was a lot of stories, you know, about, you know, stuff happening at live gigs with the Exploited. Jack Kelly's in a lot of groups. Like I said, another group he was in was Last Rites. Stars and Stripes also have a recent, a later album that was just re-released, if you can pick that up. Now I wanted to mention these guys, Stormwatch, At War with Peace. These guys were from Delaware. Now, like, they might not be, you know, very politically correct, but this is definitely a cool album musically, or what, you know, I mean, it's a, you know, and I believe the guy Tim, like, you know, he was later, I know he's later involved in kind of like the local, you know, with some other guys in Philadelphia, you know, I'm not going to get it, you know. A couple groups from California. Tough Skins, another Vulture release, Vulture Rock release. And Soldier 76, this is actually a 12-inch, I think it's an EP. It's only got 7 songs on it. I'm actually not sure what label this is on. I don't see it written. I'm not going to like look for it, but yeah, it's, you know, Headstrong. Not sure exactly when this was released, but it's titled LA Boot Boys 87. Grievance Committee. Now this is only about 3 songs, but I always see it mentioned when you read about like a lot of the earlier 80s, 90s. Now the Systematics. Now this was guys from Canada. The female singer, but it was on Vulture Rock. They kind of had like punk, you know, punk skinhead type thing. Same thing with these guys, The Choice. Not sure. This was on Hell in a Boy. Hell in a Boy, you know, Brain Dance. I think they did a couple Oxymoron releases. They got a couple good compilations if you ever get a chance to get a hold of those. Couple 7-inches, you know. Immoral Discipline. Another group from like the DC, Virginia group, Virginia area. A little bit leaning more towards the hardcore, kind of like 86 Mentality. Another group like that. So some other stuff is Bribe of 94, Pure Impact. I think they was from like New York. I got the Jacks that are. There was a couple groups named the Jacks. I thought these guys were from Atlanta. A lot of the guys like somehow like either related to like the Anti-Heroes tree, family tree, or close to it. But this one was released on Haunted Town Records out of Chicago. So Paxton Boys. Some other stuff. The Almighty Lumberjacks of Death. I believe these guys are from Detroit. Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure if all this, if you consider it just straight up boys, straight up whatever. But I've seen these guys mentioned in the same sentence. A lot of times people are just in the same scene with groups and everything. I mean, you had the Toy Dolls that, you know, definitely don't have the sound of a lot of oi bands, a lot of skin bands, but they were kind of released on the same kind of compilations and stuff. 90 Proof, which had a great split with the Templars that if you get a hold of, it's worth some money. Boots and Braces. Now, this was on GMM Records. That's a record by one of the guys from Anti-Heroes. I already showed you Soldier 76. These are a couple of their 7-inches. Boot Party's a group that I have somewhere, but I'm definitely looking for their full length. And another group, Piston Broke, which I have one of their tapes. You know, they're guys from Detroit. They have a compilation. Another group, The System, which was on a couple comps and 7-inch comps. And like I said, Boot Party is a group that I just keep missing out on grabbing an album by them. And I wanted to show this. Now this is the Burnt. This is more of a pre-Wretched Ones kind of release. A couple of guys from the Wretched Ones. The Wretched Ones, you know, I don't know if you would call them like skin but they were definitely like that working class street punk, street rock, oi type sound. That was part of that whole group of New Jersey people. Wretched Ones, Head Wound, Niblick Headline. The big labels were Squig Tone and Headache. Headache had a comp, cool comp, and a lot of those guys, you know, Squiggy and stuff. The Oi Scouts were a little later. Finally got this shirt. They've been playing a couple shows to LA, the festival out in LA. They just had a show July 4th in New Brunswick at Cinco's, but unfortunately it was canceled because of the extreme heat. But the Wretched Ones were a great band. They were a little bit older than a lot of the people in the scene, so they didn't really tour as much, but they have some really great music. A lot of people pay a lot of respect to them. There was a tribute album. Blood for Blood does a great cover, Going Down the Bar. Blood for Blood, who just got back together. They got a new album coming out soon. They have a single with the singer of Forced Reality, which is another group. Unfortunately, good thing I mentioned them because you know that they're in this what I'm talking about here. This kind of early U.S. Oi. Great band out of Connecticut. Well, he's the singer is singing for Blood, and Blood for Blood. The short, I don't want to say it was a short set that I just saw up in Brooklyn, but it wasn't a very long one, and but it was like great. It was just perfect, more intense that way, and they took time to include Going Down the Bar. Blood for Blood also does Bloodshed, a Bruisers cover. My buddy was really was disappointed they didn't do that because the Bruisers are a group that he really never got a chance to see. They played a couple reunion shows, but unfortunately he wasn't able to make it. So now obviously there's tons more. I just wanted to give you guys a couple things and a couple other hey, I had to pause again for a second. Another thing I want to mention is Oi the Black Book 1 and 2. There's a new one. There's a third one coming out, or that's already been out, and it's a graffiti-based book. But it's you know, it's got like some graffiti art based on some you know, Oi groups and everything. And it also has some. They also mentioned some groups and stuff. Do some articles about some classic albums. So just wanted to spend a second or two to mention some other European albums that are a little more under the radar. The Oi Terror out of Germany. I'm not going to try to pronounce this because I'm sure I'll get it wrong and somebody will make fun of me. If you can see that, out of Spain, a really good group. The Skin Corpse, Mr. Clean. Ramses and the Hooligans from out of Poland. This album, obviously it's like a, you know, a take on the Live and Loud albums, or I don't know if it's it's, you know, called an official bootleg. I don't know if it's related to the Live and album. This album was a little weird because it was played at a low volume, so for a while when I didn't have the greatest record player, it was hard to really listen to this. Comintern Sect out of France. I'm not going to stop the video again, but another group, Camera Silence, is a great, amazing group out of France. And Nabat, or if I'm pronouncing that wrong, N-A-B-A-T, which is crazy because I grew up, you know, around a lot of Italian, my family, and but they're a great one of the more famous, if not the most famous, Italian skin Oi band. And one day I'm gonna do a video about a lot of Italian groups. Same thing with Polish, because the other half of my family is Polish. And there's a lot of stuff that's been re-released. There was a festival out in that area, that Eastern European area, and fortunately they captured a lot of live sets from some bands, which would have been lost otherwise. And I can't not mention Oxblood, which was on, maybe it's a little bit later than some of the stuff I have here. It's not that I'm really trying to stick to any specific timeline, but this was on Punkcore, which is, you know, obviously, you know, more associated with the Casualties and some other stuff. And of course the Templars. This was another one of those $100 albums. I believe the, you know, Phase 2. This was on Vulture Rock. This is the original, not the repress. And I wanted to mention this. This is a Oxblood live album, and the weird thing about this one is the label is on the actual record itself. I believe those are wrong. It's like some kind of weird like dance music. So if anybody ever knows, heard anything about that or something, please let me know. And And I'm sorry if anything wasn't perfect, but I didn't want to sit there and procrastinate until it was, and I just wanted to make this. Like, you know, I'm pretty much working poor. I'm not trying to, you know, call myself any, you know, victim, you know, feel sorry for me, but the point is, I don't really have a ton of money, and I don't have, you know, I don't want to say I don't have the greatest life. I'm fine with whatever, but I do sacrifice things to buy my records and stuff. So I don't have I do have a lot of stuff. I have, you know, I miss out on some things, but I get as much as I can because that's what, you know, that's my thing. That's, you know, I love music and stuff. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And if you have any suggestions on, if you're one of the 10 people that watch this, I have a lot of, you know, I'm planning on doing one, like I said, about just releases and stuff. And I'm also going to do one about more recent Oi, the last couple of years, because there's some really great brands out there right now. A group called Shaved for Battle, which is actually taken from that Star. Shaved for Battle was a song off the first song off the Star Stripes album. An amazing song. I'm assuming that's where they got the name, and I have a really great test press that was given to me by the amazing young lady that runs Oitism. Check them out. Check out Dismantled Records, Mr. Face, No Front Teeth over in England. But I plan on doing something about some of these new groups out. Intimidation out of Jersey, Shape for Battle out of New York, Jackknife Johnny, let's see here, Violent Way. There's just too many to name. I'm going to do a whole video, and then, like I said, I'm going to do some videos on some lesser known stuff, like some European punk, some European Oi, you know, Italian Oi, whatever. You know, I just got to start taking the time, and like I said, if it was perfect, it wouldn't be punk. You know what I mean? I ain't pretty, and I don't have $1 million, but enjoy. If you have any questions about any music, if you have any suggestions, let me know. If you have any records that you don't want, let me know. I'll pay the shipping. Just kidding, but not. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll hit you up again soon. Remember, we are a minority. Each one of us counts.